So my name's Doug Denny, and today I'm going to show you guys an amazing CFI tool that I wish I had when I was a CFI. So a little background on myself. Okay, I am the owner and founder of Overflight LLC, and recently just published our Overflight EFB overlay creator. What it basically does is it takes all of the workload out of creating overlays for any electronic flight bag, such as ForeFlight Garmin Pilot or any of the other competitors out there on the market. And yes, it does work with all of them. So here's our scenario today. We're a flight school, and we're trying to make different practice areas inside of a known practice range or an alert area. Okay, so I'm going to open up the desktop application. Again, we don't have a mobile application for this product yet because we're still making so many upgrades on a daily basis that we just kind of want to wait on that iOS package, but we will have one, I would say, in the next 6 to 8 months. But this is accessible. All you have to do is just download it to your home screen. I have an Apple device, but it works on Androids too. And yeah, so here's our home screen here. What we're going to do is I'm going to open up my sectional overlay so we can get a better aeronautical perspective of what's going on here, right? There was a popular training range that I used to have when I was working out in Palmer at my old flight school. So I was an active CFI for about 4 years. I'm still a current CFI. I keep my FERC up to date, and I do some tailwheel students and all that stuff, but it's not my main career anymore. But again, let me just show you this because this is a really wonderful tool. So we used to have this practice area that we called the Palmer Hay Flats. And how it would work is, we would be on the radios, and we used to say things like, okay, we're going to take the northeast quadrant of Palmer Hay Flats at 3,500 feet and kind of set a block altitude. So we'd say like 3.5 to 5.5, something like that, to give our students, and it was all maneuver specific. If we're doing single altitude maneuvers, then maybe we're just going to choose one altitude and just make a standard CTAF call. If we were going to do something like a steep spiral or ground reference maneuvers, then it would be more of a block style altitude. So the problem that we ran into as a flight school was that there were just way too many aircraft that were overlapping one another, because you'd make a call like northeast practice area, and then realistically, how many young pilots, because let's be honest, us flight instructors, our young pilots are that good at situational awareness that we're really going to stay right inside of our box without an absolute indicator somewhere. Again, this is a small range. So let me just make a highlight here. I'll use my tool for the first time just to kind of show you what the hay flats was. So you'll see on the sectional chart, we have the Glen Highway, okay, which is going north to south. And then we've got, it's still the Glen Highway that's wrapping around. So we've got the Kinnick leads into the Kinnick arm leads into the Cook Inlet, okay, but we got the Kinnick arm that leads into the Kinnick River here, right under this overpass here. And the hay flats pretty much started at this interchange and went all the way to this area. So on a sectional chart, that really is not that much space, right? But believe it or not, our flight school fit a lot of airplanes in here at the same time. So let me just create an overlay here. So I'll open up my tools menu, I'll go into polygons, and then I'm gonna do I'm just gonna highlight a zone. Right, so again, I'm doing this on my iPhone, just kind of as a testament to how user-friendly this is. You could do this on the go. You could do this on a desktop in an office or on your laptop. It doesn't matter. And I'll make some adjustments here. So let's set our fill to something a little bit less pronounced here. I'm going to go a lower opacity because we're going to put some more in here in a second. Okay, our border, I'm going to make sure is full opacity. And for the border here, we're going to keep it black. And border width, we'll leave it as is. I'll go back to my tools menu, I'll switch back to select, and what that does is it solidifies this area. So this was my old training zone, okay? This is really not a large area here, as you can see, right? And what we would do is we would make calls, and we would say things like, we're going to be in the northeast quadrant. So what is the northeast quadrant? So the northeast quadrant would be this. And what I'll do is I'll kind of change the fill. Let's make it a more defined color. I'll set that to a deeper opacity so we can really see it when it's out there. Okay, and this was, let's say, my northeast quadrant. Boom, 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 and boom. Cool. So there we go, right? So now we can see it on the map. And we had a bunch of these. So we had northeast, we had southeast, we had central, or we had South Central, and this was really like a zonal planning strategy that us as a school were trying to integrate, because we had just so many issues with airplanes being places where they weren't supposed to be and interfering with other training. Like, the worst thing ever is when you're with a student, you're trying to get a maneuver, especially a commercial student working on things like 8s on pylons or lazy 8s, more technical maneuvers, and you've got to change your heading because some other person is practicing something else, and it's just a pain, right? So we'll make a few more of these little quadrants here just to kind of get a better example. I'm not going to fill up this whole zone, but I want to definitely at least, and you can see I accidentally made a point here, and I just clicked undo, and it undid my point. Make a zone right there. And then if the vertices need to be adjusted, all you have to do is just kind of zoom in and toggle and drag. Go, buddy. I don't think it likes being so close to the other one. Yeah, it's rejecting that. There we go. So you can only go so close to another vertice just because it is an actual KML file, right? That's perfect. Very good. Oh, look at that. Okay, so there's our next zone. I'm going to make 2 more of these. All right, and I'll do 1 more underneath it. And, my favorite thing about this process is that, it's not permanent. Like, after you're done crafting these, you can move all the vertices around and change their dimensions. So again, I wanted to build something that was really ergonomic and simple, and not something that was like super desktop technical, is what I call it, when you have to click through a bunch of menus, like using an Adobe suite or something like that. This is something that was really designed as a way for users to just open up your smartphone, plan something quick, and then get it on your EFB. All right, so now we've highlighted all of the big, we'll call it an alert area, even though it's not. It was just our training area, right? And then we've highlighted specific zones inside. So now, as pilots, this is a relatively small area on our sectional chart, but like while flying, especially now that this is visual, I mean, this is still like a single nautical mile range. I mean, you could definitely stay in this box at a block altitude and practice your maneuvers. And especially now that it's visual, if you were to see this on your sectional chart, I mean, it would be super easy to contain yourself inside of that zone, right? So now I'll make some waypoints. And the reason I want to make a waypoint here is because, well, if we're flying, right, we want to be able to go direct enter to get to a spot, right? If we want to go to northeast practice area, let's just go direct enter northeast on our electronic flight bag, right? Super simple. All right, so I'll color this red. And I'm just going to make 1 waypoint as an example here, just because I don't want to waste time. I always recommend to people set your opacity to like 70 or 60 or 70%, just because when it's full, it starts to kind of muddle stuff up on your map a little bit, and that's really for every software you're going to use. I'll match the label color to the color of the waypoint, and then what I'll do here is put the waypoint in, get off of there, select the waypoint, open it up, and there's multiple ways you can select the waypoint. You can either open up our selection tool and you can hold down for a second and release, and then you can get this properties menu, or you can open up your menu tree and you can go into the waypoint menu. You can click show properties, and then the same menu will come up. But what we'll name this is just NE for northeast, and as a little description here, we could say this practice area is best used for aerial maneuvers such as steep turns and, let's say, steep spirals, because it's a smaller range, right? So, more contained maneuvers. You can adjust everything again right here. And then another feature, right, for our waypoints, if you're using ForeFlight, ForeFlight's custom content packages support this. You can add PDF files with my software. I don't have a PDF file explaining this particular region, but I do have just basic PDF files. I'll just throw this random file in here, and then we'll just pretend that it applies. So we'll just call this Northeast Details, and then I'll click Save. So there's my waypoint, right? And let's say I wanted to move this waypoint. Well, all you have to do to move it is grab it and move it. Boom. And this is, when you're grabbing it and moving it, this is also adjusting the latitude and longitude coordinates in the properties. So this is a KML drag. Sweet. So now what I want to do is I just kind of want to group this together in one folder. You can see in my properties tree, I've got all this stuff here. So still in select mode, I'll go to lasso tool and I'll just lasso around the whole area, and I'll 2-finger tap and go group into folder. So now, boom, we got this folder here. I'm going to rename this to, actually, let me see why that might be a little bug right there that I just found. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so you can drag the whole shape around. Cool, cool, cool. So we were just renaming that folder real quick. I'm going to rename this to, let's go for something like just Northeast Practice. Okay, cool. And then it will autosave, or you could push manual save. So if you're using Garmin Pilot, right, the best practice would be at this point just to go into your menu and go into export to, and then it'll give you this file. You can see you'd be able to send this KML file directly to Garmin Pilot, because Garmin Pilot does support KML. They just don't support the content package style KMLs like ForeFlight does. But for our ForeFlight users, now that we have our practice area outlined, all you have to do is just click ForeFlight up top. This opens up our content package custom suite. So right here, we'll just go Northeast, or we'll just go Hay Flats practice area, and I'll call myself Moose. No, I won't call myself that. Cool Flight School. Yeah. Okay, cool. I've got all these guys selected here. So you'll notice this map overlay right here is, it's got my Skagway departures. I'm going to unselect that. I do have that selected in my layers menu down below that I didn't really go over today. But you know, one of the cool things about this is before you combine all this stuff into a content pack, it does show you all this. So make sure that only the stuff that you want to be shown is here. But you know, I'll include this just because I'll show you guys what this looks like in the final product, but it has nothing to do with what we just created. Now you can also see this package contains 1 waypoint, 5 polygons, 1 overlay, which is this guy, and 1 PDF that we applied. So I'll go bottom right here, and I'll just click download the orange button. I know it's a little out of crop, but I'll fix that in a little bit. It still works. Click open in ForeFlight. And for any of you guys that have used things like Google Earth Pro or ArcGIS or QGIS or MapTiler, I'm sure you are watching this right now and you're like, oh my God, this is so much faster. Because I literally just opened up ForeFlight and downloaded an entire content pack on my phone in minutes. So here we go, Hay Flats practice area. It contains all the information we need. Let's just test it out real quick. I'll go in the top left to my layers menu. We can see at the bottom of my layers on the left column, I've got my PAGY departures. So that's the thing that we didn't actually create, but I wanted to show you an example of. So let's just go to that real quick so you can see what it looks like. Where are you, Skagway? Right, so that's what this is. Okay, so my application does also allow users to georeference non-georeferenced PDFs. I believe it also works with PNG files, but I need to test that still. But like I said, right, you can take a non-georeferenced plate and reference it, right? So this would be our runway 2 to VFR departure for Skagway. But back to where we're at here, I'll deselect that and then come back here. At the bottom here, we got Hay Flats practice area. So, boom. I mean, look how incredible that is, right? I mean, you could assuming that you are, I really got to update my databases. Assuming that you were flying in this area, I mean, just look at how freaking cool. Regardless of what flight school you're coming from, you just click Northeast, direct to, right? It'll take you right to that box that you're trying to go to, right? Shows up as Northeast in your flight plan. All of the colors are there for the polygons you just drew. We've got this clear range. Everything's referenced the way it should be. I go back into Northeast. I can click more details. We can see this practice area is best used for aerial maneuvers such as steep turns and steep spirals, right? And go into the PDF here, and we can see all of the details for the PDF that we put in there, right? So, I mean, this is a really basic example, but just imagine all of the applications as a flight instructor that this is good for. I mean, you could literally, I mean, there have been so many freaking situations where there will be an alert area and there's like 50, 60 planes in one area. If you as a chief pilot of a flight school were to incorporate this into your stando, basically, like I mean, it would be super cool. Every flight instructor has these waypoints. They know exactly what box they're in, and then you've got an electronic flight bag that shows you that range. I mean, you can get a lot more training done a lot quicker and a lot safer that way, just by having the visual. Because if I'm here, you know, I see my little airplane flying around in this box. The second it starts to creep over to the south central box, it's like, I know I'm there. It's not, you're no longer just like looking at a river and like a student's like looking at some visual waypoint and it's like, oh, I think I'm where I'm at. It's like, no, now I know I'm where I'm at. Little things I'm going to modify here in a little bit. Like you can see this waypoint, I set it to 1, right? But the size is still a little large to me, okay? I'm going to make, you know, this is constantly being tweaked. One of the coolest parts of this thing is that we've got a bunch of user input fields on our website. We're looking for as many users to get this, and you can play with it for free. What you can't do for free is you can't download your work. You can't export your work. Everything autosaves, so you'll have an account, so you won't lose any of the stuff you do. But until you pay, it's $7.99 a month. Until you pay that, you can't export the material. But what I want, right, is user input. I mean, even if you guys play with it, you screw with the tools a little bit, you say like, hey, like I want you to tweak this and then I'll get it, or I want you to put this feature in and then I'll get it, or whatever. It's like, that's what I want. Because the more we want this to be a user experience that like you guys can be a part of building with me. You know, I've been working on this for the last 4 years because me as a pilot, you know, I flew all across the country. I used to develop my own PDF files for custom checklists. I was a ferry pilot for a while. I flew like 15 airplanes that like I had never even flown before my first flight. Like, I mean, I did a lot of awesome stuff in the GA community before getting into this, and like digital electronics helped me because they allowed me to organize my cockpit in aircraft that I'd never flown before. I mean, I didn't have papers flying everywhere. I always had a plan. I always had a way to incorporate my plan to a program, but it just took me a really long time. So I always had this dream, this vision for the community to have a platform that allowed them to take all of their planning and just put it together quickly and visually, so it keeps us safer as a community and more organized, right? Again, I say this a lot, right? We call it overcoming the fog of flight. So what is the fog of flight? I don't know if you guys have heard of what the fog of war theory is, right? But it's kind of like a game of telephone, right? What happens in a game of telephone, you take a line of 10 people, the first guy basically says something, right? And then that thing is totally different when it gets to the 10th guy. That's kind of like the dissonance between the plan and the program in the single pilot resource management 5P model, right? Well, what happens? We make plans on the ground and we can plan to our teeth, right, on the ground. You know, we could plan for 25 hours, you know, for a 5-minute mission if we wanted to on the ground, right? But if we don't have a clear and concise way of taking that plan and getting it into the cockpit in a way that is makes it super easy to execute that plan, then that plan is worthless, right? A good plan is only worth something if it can be executed as it's intended to be, right? So that's what this does. You know, you can now take your 25-hour plan, you can draw it all out on my application, and you can send it to your electronic flight bag, and just like that, it's visual on your lap. So again, this video is mostly designed for flight instructors, and you know, I know that the CFI community, it's like we're younger pilots a lot of the time. I was a CFI for a really long time. I loved it. You know, I really want to get the word out about this. I want more people to play with it. I want more people to experience how much safer it makes flying and how fun it is to use. You know, because I see a lot of people online too, they'll make all these crazy shapes and like these sentences and stuff on, you know, that you can see when you're looking at like FlightAware. I mean, I literally have a tool on my application that lets you draw flight paths like with a pencil. So like in camel format. I'll show you this real quick just so you guys can see, right? So I open up, and there's no GIS software that allows you to do this. But on my paths tool, I created a draw feature where you can literally like I'll make my signature real quick. I'll go in here. Like that is my signature. Let me do a better job at making my signature. That is my signature right there in KML, right? I'll make it a pretty red color real quick. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's do this. Boom. I'll just have to modify it in here. Let's make it pretty red. Make it a little thicker, and I'll adjust the opacity slightly. My name. And then I'll go and real quick, I'll just export this to ForeFlight. And just like this, right? And this is wild. If you're putting in KML files, just by the way, in ForeFlight, they're going to be like random KML files. They're going to be up top underneath the ForeFlight basics. My signature is now a path on ForeFlight. So technically, if you wanted to go in here, right, and, you know, fly my signature in the sky, right, you could, or draw pictures or whatever. And imagine the other application. I mean, you could, this is a tool, right? You can create whatever you want with this, right? If you wanted to trace a riverbed, if you wanted to like circle a parking area, if you wanted to go in and check out, you know, I don't know, just use your imagination, right? But again, you know, we want it to be fun. We want it to be awesome. We want to make an awesome tool for you guys to use. So